Welcome back to the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. I thank our audience out there each and every time because I know you guys have got lots of choices on how you guys spend your time. And so we appreciate every week you guys coming out and hanging out with us. Today, we are joined by a founder and CEO of a tech company that's trying to solve some restaurant problems. But I'm going to let him, Alex, why don't you introduce yourself first, a little bit about your background and history before we talk about what you guys are doing on the Get Union side.
Awesome. Thanks for having me. My name is Alex Broeker. I'm the founder and CEO of Union. We are a hospitality engagement platform. This idea was founded out of my own frustration being a bar owner of multiple venues in and around Austin, Texas. And I thought at one point there has to be a better platform.
I love it. I love it. So you are are you a recovering restaurateur and bar owner, or do you still own, a lot of times when I talk to people that are out of the restaurant, they're like, we need special therapists just for restaurant owners because it's a pretty awesome profession. At the same time, there's some challenges that we all get to deal with in the restaurant world that other professions I don't think do.
Yeah, most of the investments I have in the restaurant business, I've had my head handed to me. So now my investments are curtailed to only bars. And thankfully in Texas, for many people that don't know, it's one of the few states that you can serve alcohol by itself and not have to also serve food. So most of my investments now are constrained to the bar business where the margins tend to be much higher.
Yeah, and people do like to drink down in Austin. And while we're recording this, it's football season and UT's doing well. So I'm sure the bars that are in Austin are doing just fine.
Yes, we've seen a pickup for sure.
Awesome. So talk to me a little bit about kind of where you guys are at with Union. Tell me a little bit about what you guys are trying to build. And there was a joke somewhere that I missed, by the way, about I got my butt handed to me on the restaurant side. So I went into tech because that's really profitable on the onset. Everybody wants to change out their tech platform right away. But talk to me a little bit about what y'all are doing. How are you guys trying to solve something that you were struggling with in your world?
Yeah, thanks. We really try to focus, at least my own investments, and I'm a recovering entrepreneur. I've done a number of projects in and around the fintech and platform business. But one of the things that we really noticed in our own investments in bars was the needs of high transaction count POS systems and platforms. There wasn't great solutions out there, I guess I'll say. No disrespect to any of our competitive set, but when you really looked at how high transactions locations evolved, they were all old server-based solutions that had many terminals around an antiquated server-based solution. And the rise of a lot of cloud-based solutions just weren't really architected with the needs of high transaction volumes. And so as a result, we really focused on what was the best things about server-based systems, but the best things about cloud-based systems in terms of how to architect a platform for really high transaction needs where it's up all the time. It never goes down. Offline mode's always there. So the benefits of a lot of the server-based solutions, we really try to architect to bring into a cloud-based solution so that you got the benefit of both.
I love that. And so I guess for our audience members that may not be as familiar with the tech sector, and I know that the longtime listeners listen, and you talked about kind of what I like to lovingly call the legacy POS providers that are out there. And again, we're not going to throw out brand names, but talk to me a little bit about kind of because they're really stable. They're really stable and they work, but they also are clunky and they're hard to integrate with and they're hard to manage. And when they do go down, they go down in a blaze of glory. And and I'm assuming based on your experience, you've had some of that in the past with some of the legacy systems that have been out there. Talk a little bit about kind of just even as a bar owner, what you've heard, what you've seen from the operators that you work with as it relates to that, because you do get those I'm just going to only work on, let's use a brand name that's publicly traded. I'm going to only work on Aloha because I love Aloha and, don't try and mess with me. But to your point, as an owner, you can't do the things you needed to do. It crashes you can't serve as many drinks. And again, I'm not picking on Aloha per se, but let's talk a little bit about what is that architecture that you see for those that are less familiar with the inner workings of that might be listening to the show.
Yeah, for those of us that have been around a long time in this business, that's what I refer to as the server-based solutions. The benefit of server-based solutions, when they are up, they're lightning fast.
Mm-hmm.
You're not relying on going up to the cloud, down to the cloud, and your internet connectivity and internet speeds, especially in high transaction counts. It's not a question of when your internet goes out; it's how often and how many TVs you got hanging on there, and how many guests you have walking around using your public Wi-Fi that really bog down the network. and as a result, create a lot of latency between point of sale terminals in a big, busy bar being able to communicate with one another. That's the benefit of legacy or server-based solutions. They provide that instantaneous speed where tabs or checks replicate amongst other point of sale terminals in a millisecond. A lot of the cloud-based solutions don't do that because they're so reliant, again, on the internet connectivity speeds and whether it's up or down.
Yep. Yeah. No. And I think that I guess forays straight into kind of cloud based, and so a lot of cloud based solutions do rely on the internet to get you back and forth, and so it comes at the expense. It comes with the benefit of kind of extensibility and the ability to go kind of work anywhere and connect anywhere, but then you also are reliant on, we were talking pre-show about South by Southwest, and you've got everybody's on the network, and all of Austin, the city blows up, you get another 500,000 people in the city for the week. I promise you the pipes are getting clogged up. And because there's so many people, everybody wants to go out and have a drink and go out and have some food. So talk to us a little bit about kind of your experience. And as you've done your market research in that cloud base, you got 5 deep at the bar. You need to be able to ring up drinks as fast as you can. What did you guys experience in the cloud side?
Yeah, so the benefits of cloud are obvious, but you can't be 100% reliant on the cloud. There was a pretty large outage just a week ago on a national POS company that had horrific challenges across their entire network, down for 17 hours straight. Yep. And as a high volume owner myself, and now providing a platform to other high volume, high transaction count owners, you just can't ever be in that kind of situation. So our architecture was really all about trying to have peer-to-peer replication on a local level, still all the benefits of cloud, always up to date, never goes down, those type of things that are present in a local environment, but also the benefits of, backups, just not having the reliance solely of, what happens when my Ethernet jack goes out.
Yep.
I guess best way to put that.
Yeah. So talk to me a little bit about what you guys built. Cause I don't know. I mean, you talk to operators and they're always out looking, and a lot of people that are on this show, listening to the show, they're intrigued. They want to know what are the new things that are coming out. So talk to me. How did you guys come up with some way to solve this? What are you guys doing that's, I guess, unique and different that you might not find in either those server-based or those cloud-based solutions? Because clearly you were trying to scratch an itch. And that's one of my favorite types of shows, is those people that are like, I have experienced this and I'm smart enough and I have enough money, I'm going to go figure it out. And it sounds like that's kind of exactly what you're doing.
Well, I don't know if you never ever have enough money to figure it out, but we're certainly trying. I think the industry certainly, it's amazing, U.S. hospitality, how far behind we are other countries, Asia and Europe in particular, in terms of the rise of mobile solutions and the ability for what I believe is going to happen and is happening in every industry. Consumer-led experiences are taking over. I mean, I pay for my groceries, I order online, everything happens in the power of my palm. I think one of the early visions we had about our company, which is named Union, which was really the marriage of consumers, brands, and the venues they enjoy. Let's bring them all together in a great experience where the POS is always up and never goes down. You can have incredible guest-led experiences with consumers using their phone to engage in commerce. And when you think about the U.S. in particular, and this was our original vision a long time ago, was a consumer-led experience is going to take over. It'll be a slow adoption curve in the U.S. and for right reasons. A lot of times it's like, hey, I still love the old. So we tried to build a platform that had the reliability of the old systems, as I mentioned, never relying on if the server goes down, but also the benefit of allowing guests to really drive their own experiences. And we talked a lot, and I talk a lot to even the places that I'm involved with, about why do we want to continue to put a server in the middle of a guest transaction? On average, it takes about 7 minutes in traditional hospitality for a server to come up and take your drink across. Yeah. We are in thousands of locations in 35 states. On average, it's over 7 minutes for a server to come over and take a guest's first order. For me, in terms of that experience, not only as a consumer, but as an owner, you're like, why do I want to slow down anybody wanting to order? And in fact, Let's develop a platform and a solution for consumers to have a consumer or guest-led experience in hospitality. Moreover, on the back end, why do you ever want to put, even worse than slowing down the ordering process, which a lot of the venues that we still talk to them about, I talk to them about, is like, okay, if you really want to have that personal experience of like, Jeremy, it's great to see you today. Let me tell you about our specials. If you still want to hold on to that old mindset, that's fine. We'll allow you to have a platform that at least guests can pay when they're ready to pay.
Yeah.
How many times have we all been sitting there where you're like waiting 20 minutes to get your check, and by that time you're just angry. You're just like, and the tips, the two biggest determinants of tips: how long does it take for somebody to come up and take my order, and how long does it take to get my check? And when you're causing a server infused experience in the middle of what your consumer or your guests really want to do, for us, it was just like, that's just maddening. So why don't we allow a platform that allows consumers to experience commerce the way they want to, when they want to, and allow servers to really be in an experience where, like, I'm here to give you a great hospitality experience. Nothing really good happens at, let me take your order, or when was the last time you're like, oh man, that little smiley face on the check really made my day. Like that's the part where, so we try to build, again, a high reliability system for high transaction counts, but allowed venues and owners and servers to adopt technology at their pace.
Yeah. So I love that, because I was taught when I was young in the restaurant industry, I worked in restaurants before I got into restaurant technology, and it was all about you can make or break a customer's experience at the beginning and at the end. Most of the time they forget about the middle. They might have a really bad meal, and that, but oftentimes, even as a server, you can't control that. You can't control how fast the cook is making it, how fast the bartender is making the drink, but you can control how quickly you get to the table and how quickly you make sure that they get out. I had I had an example yesterday. I took a potential client out for lunch yesterday, had a fantastic meal. Server was awesome, talked about the specials. He was great. He even had a tablet in his hand to take the order. So he took it table side. So he got into the kitchen. The appetizers got in fast. But then when we went to leave, I asked for the check, and it might have been 15 minutes. And I was with restaurant people, and they're like, and I was with restaurant people, and they're like, I said, well, unfortunately, and I happen to be at their brand and looking to sell them technology. I said, well, unfortunately, the last time I was at your brand, I had the same exact thing. And they're like, no, tell me where, tell me what date. And I'm like, I'm not going there. But in general, to your point, it can make or break a dining experience, especially if you have somewhere to be or something to do.
And I think, imagine a situation where on the ordering side, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the payment side in a second. Like on order, a guest sits down. Consumer technology adoption curve, probably the fastest in payment history, with COVID and QR code introduction, QR code or NFC tag, whatever you want to do. But imagine you now have consumers wanting to adopt this technology because they want to order when they want. And I described it to one of my partners the other day. I said, it's like you put something in your Amazon shopping cart, and then you have to wait 7 minutes for somebody to come over and say, okay, we'll process your order now. And that's literally what's happening when you stick a server in the middle of a guest wanting to order. The other side is the same thing on payment, which is what you just described. Why would you ever slow down your guests actually wanting to give you the money at the end? That's the part that's just kind of mind-boggling. That's part of it. The other part, I think, that technology and owners out there should think about is the revenue associated with actually taking a card. Mm-hmm. And we boiled it down pretty simply. If you think about, just think about, I start a tab at the bar. You take your card, you dip it, they hand it back to you. You may come back later and sign it, or have them put the 20% tip if you want to walk the tab. Have you ever timed that? If you time it, and we have, it's about a minute to dip it. If they sign it, then enter the tip at the end of the night. It takes about a minute. You go ask a bartender at a mixologist place, how many drinks can you make in a minute? How many perfect old fashions can you make in a minute? The average, they'll say 2. Okay, cool. You can make 2 drinks a minute. It takes you a minute to handle a card. Yeah. Instead, you could make 2 more drinks. Let's say your average drink is $10. $20 a minute is being lost by you taking cards, putting a server or a bartender in the middle of taking money. And it's not even the slowing down your guests and satisfaction. It's actually the lost revenue associated with hey, every time I take a card, that's $20 of lost revenue. If I did $20 times every minute towards every bartender, think about the lost revenue. And nobody really talks about that.
Yeah.
I talk to our, my interests and owners all the time about that's the real loss.
Mm-hmm.
Do not take cards anymore. Let guests pay when they want and make $20 more a minute.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's interesting that you talk about that. I've actually had previous guests on the show that have talked a little bit about that. We may get into that. But when you look at these time and motion studies for time from the table to the POS to go get stuff rung up back to the table, we had an example of a client that statistically said they got 18% faster table turns in this, higher end place by doing order and pay at the table. It was just 18%. That's it. That's huge, to your exact point on the lost revenue and the lost guest expectations. What do you say, Alex, to those that combat the front side of the transaction? So you'll have either the old time restaurateurs that say, no, it's not 7 minutes. I've got better staff. I manage them better. You're wrong. Yeah, we need to be able to talk to them about the specials. We need to be able to coach them because we don't want them to put barbecue sauce and regular spaghetti sauce on, or marinara sauce on my pizza because it's not going to taste the way that I want it to. What do you say to those brands? Or you get I was just talking to my neighbor just yesterday. She was talking about going out to a restaurant and she went to the bar and she had an interaction with the bartender. What should I drink? I kind of like these kind of drinks. What do you say to those that would say, that part of the hospitality experience is that there are people that are just going to eat. McDonald's and kiosks, McDonald's and online order makes sense because I know what I'm getting at McDonald's. They probably aren't going to have something else, or else have seen it on some Facebook ad or Instagram ad that says the McRib is back and I'm going there specifically for that. But almost every time I go to McDonald's, I get the same thing. Every time I go to Burger King, I get the same thing. Every time I go to Taco, and at the same time, I'm discovering. And how do you help with the discovery on a digital platform first?
Yeah, great question. So for us, we developed a platform that allows any venue to dictate any service model they want. I may think that those are still horse and buggy whip, but that's just my own perspective, and I do in my own spots. But I do think that there is an element of hospitality that's never going to go away. Hopefully, never goes away. Which is, let me tell you about what I like or what I don't like. Mm-hmm. But I think over time, if you really look at the consumer analytics here, there are certain hospitality locations you want to go and experience that. Yeah. Fine dining, I think, is not a place I want to get in and out of. I'm there for the experience. I'm there to have that. When I'm going to a sports bar to watch the Longhorns play, I know what I'm ordering. I'm not necessarily going there to have this incredible in-depth experience. And when you think about at least where I've invested and where we try to, we built our platform for, it's really high transaction places. Yeah. Turns and burn, 50 people deep at a bar, big sports bar. You're not necessarily there for that guest experience, but our platform allows all of that. If you want to have a server-led experience and a guest payment experience, awesome. One of our new products that we just introduced is basically putting our POS software on any iPhone. And now with the advent of great things like tap to pay, or scan a QR code to start your tab using Apple Pay or Google Pay, which 40% of people would rather pay through Apple Pay or Google Pay than actually using a physical card. Yeah. Great, we have a platform that does that. But in one of our new releases, because I realize that maybe not everybody's as advanced thinking as I am, which is like, why would you want to put a server in the middle of any experience of person wanting to order, buy your product and pay you for your product? But if you do, okay, what are the least amount of friction points that we can put in that experience? So we've just now released a POS on an iPhone. Bring any iPhone, buy your own iPhone, go get one that's 3 years old, Amazon refurbished. And the benefit now, mostly in the handheld world, the products, ours included, were pretty poor. They're relying on card readers. The batteries get eaten up most of the time. Regardless of platform, you want to use that as a Frisbee after a couple of hours because the thing gets too far away from the Wi-Fi and whatever. And any of us that are in the restaurant business understand that
they take care of the stuff so well, though. They're so careful with it.
Oh no, it never gets dropped. The card readers never disconnect like that. But with the advent of tap to pay now, and our new release of having a POS on an iPhone, where truly venues can just bring their own, buy their own. We don't have to be in the hardware business. We don't have to configure card readers for them. It's now just tap to pay. Your consumer can tap a card, tap their phone, scan to pay to open a check to begin with, and all use the comfort of kind of Apple Pay and Google Pay. So we offer those platform solutions as well. I'll caveat the whole thing saying I still think that's the horse and buggy whip business.
Yeah. Well, and so having been in the consumer technology space for, I don't know, 30 years myself, we've seen not only an uptick in customer self-service, but there's the opportunity and the challenge. And I guess I'd love to get some help from you, Alex, as to how you guys combat this or deal with this, I guess. Operators that are looking to get into this, get away from the horse and buggy, as you called it, and get to technology. We did a brand about 10 years ago where we allowed guests to order for themselves. And they came from a brand that guests were in a horse and buggy environment, servers. They had some operational challenges related to the amount that guests modified the product. And so now you're 50 deep at the bar and you've got the old fashioned at the bar. You know, was it poured with this kind of bourbon or was it poured with that kind of bourbon? And all of the logistics management of modifying orders, they went from what used to be about 15% of the food orders got modified to 80+% of the food orders got modified because the guests could go create their own experience. It creates a different operational challenge. And I want to talk a little bit more about some other operational challenges that might also be there that we've experienced, but I'd love some help walking through how people need to evaluate it, because for 100 years, we've been doing the horse and buggy. We're going to now allow guests to do this. How do you allow the customizability, but you also need to manage it operationally to ensure you deliver the guest experience that you're looking for?
Yeah, great question. So I think there has to be a limit on the mods that you allow consumers to make through a digital device. Otherwise, be scrolling for days and you'll have some issues. If you want to have a Manhattan with bubble gum and a pink umbrella and some hamburger bites dropped into it as well, great. That's probably a better, if you're going to allow that kind of customization, you talk to your server about that. But if you really look at what most consumers, a vast majority, high 90s in terms of percentile, I want my old fashioned this way, this way, and this way. And there's probably 3 or 4 different mods you put on it. Our system was really built around kind of nested modifiers, knowing, okay, if I order a vodka martini up, here's the natural mods that are going to be next to it. And so you don't have to go search and scroll pages and pages for a guest to be able to do that. It just smartly starts knowing the mods that you have. One of the things we did in our platform was once we saw you built your drink, the ability to order it again. And the next time you came in, if you had a digital experience, that's the first thing that shows up there. It's like, are you going to be, Jeremy, you going to be having the vodka martini up with 2 cocktail onions? Awesome. And you hit it.
Yeah. So and as a consumer, I just was telling somebody, we were talking about a pre-show that Tex-Mex brand that's based in the town that you're in, they have a digital payment platform at the bottom of the guest receipt. And my wife and I and the kids were in the store here in Dallas a couple of weeks ago, and it remembered who I was and remembered my payment, and the payment experience was infinitely better than it would have been had I had to wait around for the server and give them my card and all of that. I was like, even for me in this space, I tried it the first time, quite frankly, to see if the damn thing worked. The second time I tried it, and the third time I've tried it, it created a better guest experience for me. So to that, both the ordering customization, no different than if you logged in to, somebody else's Amazon account. I log into my wife's Amazon account. I'm like, this is weird because there's a whole bunch of crap on here that I'm not used to. And she logs into mine. It's the same way. But for whatever reason, when we log into an online ordering platform for a restaurant, it's not a customized experience. You get the entire menu. So I love that you guys did that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, if you own places, you think about when you design the product.
Yeah. So one of the other things that I know people have struggled with, not only the modifications, but then there's the order of operation. So again, you're primarily in bars, but even in restaurants, the minute you allow the guests to go order for themselves, there is this, I guess, relationship of where the product is getting produced and the product getting to the guest, whether that's a non-alcoholic beverage, that's an alcohol beverage, or that's a food beverage, a food item. You've got to figure out operationally, because historically what would happen is the server was controlling the entire experience. Good server, good experience, bad server, bad experience. Now you go digital and you take some of that control away. And I say some of that control away from the server to manage the speed and the pace and making sure the item's getting out of the kitchen and bringing it to the table and such. And so I guess I'd love for you to talk, Alex, about how you guys have consulted with your restaurant and bar clients as it relates to considering whether it's runners to bring food, runners to bring non-alcoholic beverages. Historically, again, a lot of restaurants don't have a prep area for non-alcoholic beverages. The servers get them themselves. The servers get the salads themselves. Now the guest is doing this digitally. Talk to me a little bit about how you guys have overcome this from a technological perspective, because I think it's something most people are like, okay, I'm all on board. I got it, Alex. Horse and buggy is gone. I'm going to the new tech. And then they go, oh crap, my guests are having a bad experience because their sodas have been sitting out there and somebody brought their vodka tonic from the bar and now their sodas are sitting in the non-alcoholic beverage area, or they didn't go get it. So talk to me a little bit about how you guys have dealt with that.
Yeah, no, good question. Yeah, we get that. It's very common. Oh, what if my kitchen, what if there's too many drinks at once? Like, okay, you're worried about having too many sales at once. Let's hire another bartender.
Yeah.
These are tractable problems, but I'll give you an example of a real live example of one of our customers, fully staffed. And this is they serve food and they serve alcohol, fully staffed, giant patio bar, sports bar. They touch about 15,000 consumers a month go through this location. So super high volume. Tapped out, they were doing about $350,000 in monthly revenue. Maxed out, full staff, full everything. They're doing over $1 million a month now.
Wow.
Because they
That's
embraced awesome. The guest-led experience. And so as you know, our platform, and I'm sure others do as well, when you hit the NFC or the QR code at the table, obviously it has that table number embedded in it. I ordered my wings and Tito's, and there's literally somebody at the drink stand. Printer comes up or bar display system shows up. That's Alex's vodka soda at table 42, and they just have runners. And it's taken them from 350 grand to $1 million a month because they've adopted this service model. And so we also hear from a lot of folks saying, well, my servers, they're not going to like this. I'm like, wait a second. Let's say your average tip's 20%. Mm-hmm. If your sales go up 70%, your tips are going to go up 70%. And that's the math that like, oh yeah, that's right. And in this same location, this owner annualized his bar back on what he's making per year. He's making $125,000 a year as a bar back.
Wow.
And because they've adopted the service model now, they have a wait list for staff to get in there because the staff is making so much money, all driven by guest-led experiences. I order when I want, I pay when I want, my table turns when I want. And that's the story I tell lots of fellow owners like myself of like, that's what's possible. And if somebody says, well, I just don't want more sales, and there's not a lot I want to, I'm like, okay,
Yeah. Well, and I think the other thing that that people don't consider is the ability for that same staff member to now engage with the guests more often because they're no longer dealing with tech and dealing with payment, which are the two biggest sticking points in all operations, is the start of the order and the end of the order. So figure out how to get them to interact with the guests and upsell them the next drink, even if it's through digital and such. And so I think a lot of owners don't think that way because they've, as you so lovingly put it, are stuck in the horse and buggy age. So talk to me a little bit about the idea of chargebacks, I guess. So a lot of people come back to me, and this is getting a little bit into the weeds as the technology, but we all recognize that chargebacks are an issue in the restaurant and bar business. People say, oh, I wasn't there, and they call their credit card and say I wasn't there, and now you're stuck. How have you guys dealt with any of the chargeback situations? Because I'm paying on a digital wallet, I'm paying on an online transaction and such. Maybe it doesn't matter because they went from 300,000 a month to $1 million a month, and so if I get another $10,000 worth of chargebacks this month, it doesn't matter because I got just that much more gross volume. But I guess I'd love to hear what happens there, because that's what I get from people. I want to be able to see the physical card. I want to see Alex's card, and I remember, I'm old enough, you're probably old enough, when they used to ask for your ID every time you handed them a credit card, or you even wrote a check, they'd ask you for your ID. Like, that never happens anymore. Nobody looks at the back of the card to see that you even signed it. But I've got customers that have said, no, we don't want to do any of this stuff. We want to see the physical card before we do that because we don't want the chargeback issue. How have you addressed that technologically and even operationally?
Yeah, there's lots of technologies available for that, whether it's 3D secure, whether it's incremental auth, where you can continue to auth every time somebody makes an order. But overall, by using Apple Pay and Google Pay in particular in a digital way, chargebacks are half of what card chargebacks are. And so anybody that says, well, I don't want to do this because I'm worried about chargebacks, I would love to show them just the raw data. Here's average chargeback. We process hundreds of millions of dollars a month across our portfolio. Here's the chargeback rate on cards. Here's the chargeback rate on Apple Pay and Google Pay. Oh, by the way, you can do incremental loss. You don't have to worry about declines. You're going to know it declines before they order that next one, or how many times has there been a walk tab because the guest knew it was going to decline.
Yep. Or they knew you were in offline mode. Or that's my favorite is they send out the text at UT. Hey, these guys are in offline mode. You can call and charge back. Let's go get free drinks tonight. That's right. Another one of my favorites. But in an Apple Pay world, that doesn't exist.
Chargebacks. Everybody thinks, well, they get better or worse chargebacks. Look, chargebacks are cost of doing business.
Yeah.
If you fat finger 2 Bud Lights and they only had one, regardless of whether they paid, and they look at their bill later, they're going to call you up and say, that wasn't me. They don't go away by method of payment or method of commerce. They just don't. Now the liability risk obviously shifts, but using Apple Pay and Google Pay, that's to the merchants and restaurant owners' benefit as well. But using those payment methodologies across our platform, chargebacks are over half what they are on cards.
That's a great piece of data that people don't consider.
It's like your face opens up your phone now. Like, okay, how can you say that wasn't me?
Well, and it's just amazing to me that people still consider this. I mean, and again, I'm saying it to help educate our audience, because people don't consider. I don't even know that you're allowed to charge back an Apple Pay type transaction because it has authenticated you. They've got geolocation that you were physically there. Like they know that you were in that bar with your phone. Like
it's hard to say, it's hard to, play that Shaggy song of "It wasn't me."
Yeah, exactly. No, absolutely. Absolutely. Last question, Alex, I'd love to talk a little bit about is this a wholly owned system? Do you guys integrate with existing systems? Do you guys sit alongside of legacy systems, server-based systems? Do you sit alongside of the cloud-based systems? Do you guys integrate? Is it, because where you're going to get these questions from our audience is, okay, that's great. I love what Alex has had to say, but I just am in a 2-year contract with this company, or I've got, all these payroll providers and back office providers that he doesn't support, and I need to have this stuff. Talk to me a little bit about what you guys are doing to combat that.
Yeah, great question. We have lots of integrations with lots of great partners, and whether it's on the inventory management side, whether it's on accounting side, whether it's on the payroll side. So all the standard integrations we, of course, have done. And a lot of our accounts, we face that, I'll derogatorily call our product a bean counter, and everybody else in the POS business is a sea of oneness of bean counters. I think we built a better bean counter. But one of the things that we really did is we said to really have a truly amazing guest experience, to do the things of integrated loyalty. When it walks in, and Jeremy, great to see you again, your chips and salsa are on us today. Those kind of levitational consumer experiences only occur through a consumer-led experience with the phone, but also when you control everything from the point of sale, the B system, all the way to C. Like, why does Uber work so well? They got a point of sale in the car, on the app on the other side. You have to control that whole thing. So we don't integrate with other POS systems because we want to drive, levitational guest experiences every single time. Now, the cost of getting into our platform, as I mentioned earlier, bring your own device. Mm-hmm. Go get you probably have an iPhone laying there. Why don't you try it and run it alongside it? All you need is a kitchen printer, or bar display system, or kitchen display system. And if you have them already, we can integrate into those. All we need is a jack on your network, and try it. I mean, we are big believers in try. And if it's a fit, great. We can talk about then when do we take over the balance of your infrastructure needs, but run this as a mobile solution alongside of whatever you have, and give it a whirl.
I love it.
Cost you next to nothing to get in. And if you hate us, you got a couple of great iPhones.
Very cool. Well, how would people learn more about what it is that you guys are doing? I'm excited for people to check you guys' stuff out and see if it's a fit for what their bar restaurant might be looking for. So how would they get in touch with you guys? How would they learn about more?
No, I appreciate that, Jeremy. We're at www.getunion.com.
Awesome. And if you're at liberty, are you allowed to share the bar names so that if they just want to go have a beer and go eat in one of your establishments to go check it out down in Austin?
Yeah,
Are you at liberty
absolutely.
to? Okay, because I'm certain any of the people that are in restaurant or restaurant tech need to drink a lot, so they probably would love when they're down in Austin to go check you guys out.
If you really want to go see like an incredible experience, go to this venue that I mentioned. In terms of the numbers, that's called Bolden Acres. They have 2 of them now in Austin. It's an amazingly run place, a really cool experience with pickleball and dog parks and sports bars, and it's a great watering hole. So
Very,
I'd
very cool.
love for you to experience our system there and patronize one of our great customers.
Well, I will certainly check it out next time I'm down in Austin. I gave you that promise before we hit record. So, anything else that we missed, Alex, before we wrap up our recording for today?
I think we covered it, Jeremy. I really appreciate you having me, and it was great talking with you.
Well, and to our listeners, guys, as I said on the onset, you guys have got lots of choices on how you spend your time, and so we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. If you haven't already subscribed to the newsletter and the podcast, please do so. Favorite podcast player. If you're a YouTube person, we've been launching on YouTube the last couple of months as well. So whether it's YouTube podcast or subscribe to the newsletter, you get a link to every single episode for the month. Alex, thank you so much for your time, and to our listeners, make it a great day.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.